Hello and happy first weekend of August and the first day. What a coincidence! We love coincidences. And another happy coincidence is that we're going to do another run of Hypermodern chess because we need a bit of a modern in our lives. Sometimes some people go backwards. They play the London, they play the Exchange Slav. No, we're going to be modern, go forward, and get exciting stuff going on. Let's start rolling with some exciting stuff. You'll be rolling, doing some ready something. You could also do it a bit of Sicilian style, and I'm going to show you how that's done. Not just that fianchetto way of playing that I've been doing in the previous stream. So this will be a bit different than what you've seen before. It's gonna be a bit trickier. Not much different, but still not the same. By the way, it's been quite rainy these days, although it wasn't the worst thing ever. I was always excited to have a little bit of rain after all these humid and hot weather that we had. So this is a good start. All right, knight f3. So hypermodern chess, as we talked about, is about central control by pieces. And in fact, I am going for the undermining of the center. And this is the one that I wanted to show. You don't always have to go g3, bishop g2. You can go c4 as well. All right, let's go e3. Point is, this pawn is about to fall. And after that, this is a target that black will have to tend for. There, let's take. There, let's go b3. Bishop b2, and I'm still playing in the same vein, trying to own up all of those squares. Bishop d6. Interesting. Okay. Gonna go knight c3. Again, just owning is what I want. d4, and now I have plenty of pieces ready. This bishop might actually drop back to d3 at any moment. There. Okay. e4 to gain the space. Bishop b4. All right. Go e5. Now e5 is not always that good, but this bishop is so bad, I think I will be able to use that to my benefit. Okay. Go queen c2. I don't mind exchanging. I will still have more pieces around the king. Hey Edgar Saint. Which era would you like to live in? The Romantic era, the Fisher era, or the current era? That's a difficult one. I'm not particularly a big fan of current era. Not because of the computers, but sort of the way people have been treating the game. People have been being very cynical about the game. Sort of neglecting the fact that, oh, that's a pawn. I'll take it. I'll take that pawn. Sort of neglecting the fact that there's so much exciting chess to be played. Case in point is what you said. So I think I would be in the 80s. 90s is, I think, best of chess. It's the 80s, 90s. I'll go with that. Because they kind of relish the game. Unlike recent times, I kind of feel it's not relished as much as they want to be too practical. They want to play a boring game with the London, enjoy those boring times, and I'm not a big fan. You could play good openings, good fascinating positions, but modern players just seem to refuse that. And that in some ways does upset me. So I'm gonna just double up. Also, my queen is doing quite well. It defends important pawns, attacks pawns on the queen side, and it also can go back if needed. So I don't know if I answered your question there, Edgar Saint. But again, I actually do think that if I could choose, I wouldn't choose the Fischer era. Fischer era seems a bit sweaty too. But but the 80s, 90s seems like the right thing to choose. Takes. Okay, it's time to exchange. I'm up a piece, so that seems like a good dealio. Also, your favorite was kind of well represented in that time of the year and in that generation. E7, I want my queen on f5. So if you want good Benoni games, 80s is the place to look for that and look for them. I honestly thought you would go for the romantic era, but your answer is even better. Yeah, I mean, appreciate the response. Yeah. But it is, again, a matter of taste. H4, H5, want to soften that king side. I'll take that lady. I'll take that lady. So in fact, you can undermine the center with knight f3, g3, and in the long run, you roll like Fischer with d3, e4, or you can go knight f3, c4, which is a different way of playing. And if you'd asked me that, hey, how good is this? Like 5-6 years ago, they would say, nothing, it's not good. But recently they realized that Reti, who's from the 1920s, he had a good point there. And these are those things that you realize that talent is timeless. And some of the players that are beloved recently might not be that talented as they think they are. d5. So when they play on the flank, you strike in the center. Queen d5, and already I have firm control over the most important square. Okay, let's drop back. Yep. Reti indeed. d3, knight f6. Already I have firm control. g3, go bishop g4. Winning time. Time is very important when you're with black because you're already behind. He's actually not from Hungary. For some reason people keep making that mistake, but it's not the truth. It's by far not the truth. It's Austria-Hungary, and he's Czech. So technically, he is a citizen of that country, but he is a Czech as a person. Now, he did write for Hungarian newspapers, but that's about it. That's kind of the whole extent. I'm gonna go h4, just soften this king. There. Okay. Go queen d6. Note that this knight can never take. My bishop is lurking. I'm always just a move away from castling. You'll be honest, Fischer is not your favorite. I stick to Nejmeddinov or Tal. I like GMs that have a distinguishable style, like Tal could maintain his style when faced the legend himself. Let's take knight d4. Yeah, I mean, Tal is Tal. No question about it. He's a one-of-a-kind player. Rook e3. Takes, and I take that way so I can check and vacate this square for my knight. g4. King g1. Okay. Knight e3. Queen takes. Let's take this guy. On c2. It's forking. So there's no time to take. Knight e4, rook g2 is a check, and if takes, knight takes e3 is a check. Queen d3, knight f6, ef. We want to get the bishop out. Never too late to mess up, so I'm just gonna castle and bring in the rook. Also a pin. Alright. Rook e8. If takes, queen there. Rook takes. Queen g6. And it's winning. By the way, there's one thing that I wanted to show. If king takes h2, there's this beautiful solution of knight f1 check, bishop f1, and knight f3. Forking. This is actually quite a cute idea. You are setting up a trick. If they refuse, they fall into the same trick yet again. I think knight f1 check is quite cute here. Who's like a modern day Tal? That's actually a good question. What do you guys think? Who's the modern day Tal? Okay. Well, we're going to snipe from the side. Knight f3. c4. As you note, I am taking control with pieces. So I'm not actually capturing those squares. Well, I'm looking for someone. Obviously, not everyone's Tal and not everyone is exactly like Tal. They can't be. But I was looking more for an answer that's trying to, get close to it. Modern day Tal would be, in my opinion, Jobava, says Edgar Saint. I sort of agree. His style is very close. He always aims for a fight, and when he sees tactics, he's a fabulous player. Rapport, if you guys could tell, I think he's more like Tony Miles. And I don't know how this came about, but I think it's true. He is sort of like that. Knight c6, and my knight is super happy, pressing down the board. Knight d5, trying to press, press, bench press over there. And the reason I would say that he's really good and is like Tony Miles, because he believes in his capabilities as a player. Now that was a new thing in the 80s where Tony Miles was in the top 10. Takes, I'm gonna take. And it's kind of a different mentality, but it is very much like his style. I mean, Mr. Richard Rapport's style. Being aggressive, being thoughtful, and mindful of his own strengths. Now, I have a very strong knight on c6 and more space suddenly. I have more pawns in the center, and whenever you have more pawns in the center, you have a good chance of claiming an advantage. Hey, God's chess. There, queen d7. Okay, let's get the rook on the file. It's also a backwards pawn. That'll be a juicy target for later. Good old backwards pawn. So who's your favorite player currently? You can't say Magnus, because everybody would spam Magnus immediately. So Magnus sadly is not in the running this time. Hey J-Rod. You're still experimenting with some beautiful hypermodern chess. Queen d2. Trying to connect the rooks. And developing pieces, again, just like in card games, it's important. You've got to develop them all, because otherwise you'll be in trouble. You'll be lagging behind and you will have issues hiding your king. Rook b6, but I'll take that knight. And sadly, that pawn is blocking the view. So that was an unfortunate turn of events for my opponent. MVL. Duda. Nice. Why Duda, by the way? Why is your favorite Duda? Duda. To be honest with you, big fan of Duda, but I do enjoy the style of Dubov. It's a little bit different. It's not the same, and that's a good thing. It's kind of boring seeing the same thing over and over again. G6. Again, we're going to snipe the center. E5, and that actually does try to stop my development, but this runs into attacks. There, bishop g4. Notice that I immediately attack. Okay, knight c6. So this is the target. That's where we're going for. There, okay. E5. You like Anand? Okay. And from the younger generation, do you have a favorite? There, let's take. Let's taketh. Let's taketh. Let's take that pawn as well. Why not? Why not take that pawn? Okay. Knight e7. I'm going for a safer route. And you know what? The problem with isolated pawns is that there's no pawn that could support it. And exactly, that's the problem in this specific case for white. Okay. Let's take. There's just no way to defend it. Knight takes d4. there, but this runs into rook b8, and I have a double attack. I could go knight c2, but a piece is a piece. I'm just gonna take that thing if I can. Also, I'm very curious if you have someone who you're very fond of as a player, like top player. Do tell me why. I mean, my reason for Dubov is kind of self-explanatory. He plays very exciting and innovative chess, which was not that big of a deal and wasn't really cultivated in the early 2000s, nor is it a big thing these days. There, okay. Let's do this again. b3, bishop b2, e3. There, bishop b2, knight e5. So we're going to have a tactic of going this direction. Queen e1. We're just starting to lurk on the other side. Bishop f3. Now I have a good old outpost. Knight e4. Okay. Go g4. I'm trying to gain space and make sure that there's no control over that f6 square. Okay, I can't really develop like that. All right, I'm gonna just drop back. I want to prepare this rook f3 maneuver. Let's take. Bishop d6. I want to keep this. This is kind of the heart and soul of the position. If I can't have this, then there are issues. Okay, g5, taking away this square. This is the long-term plan. Bit cavemanish, but hey, if it works, it works. There. Take. All right, let's take this. There, let's take this. There, knight c3. No. We've got to take knight c3. And I am going to start roaming on this side of the board. There, rook f4. Have a target, and king can be a little bit loose. That's not the end of the world, but it can be a bit tricky. You're a big fan of Vasily Ivanchuk. Always something new up his sleeve. Yep, he is a special type of player. I mean, for good reason, he was thought to become a world champion, but sadly he missed out. Probably in the 90s, he had a shot, but then he kind of messed it up. Now, the reason I'm kind of optimistic about my chances is the fact that I have a much better knight than that bishop. That bishop is actually just staring at the wall. There, rook f1, getting everyone in, and these guys are still in the garage, sort of. So I am optimistic when I see this situation. There, let's go queen e5. We are starting to lurk. Also, knight e4 will be on tap pretty soon. Could also go rook f2, rook g2, and set up that. I do have to be mindful that my king is a little bit tender. h6. Okay. give a check. Those are misplaced. Maybe I could go knight b5, knight d6. Not really. Alright, I think I'm just going to go this way. Slowly defending the d2 pawn. Also have some threats on e4. So I think my guys on e6 and f2 are perfectly placed. However, this knight will need another good hiding place to find. It'll be pretty important. Queen h4. Trying to be nasty. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna go knight e2, get the knight either to f4 or g3. And with my knight getting closer to that king, the position is getting more and more critical. Very much so. Just curious what you guys enjoy more, bishops or knights. Gonna go knight f4, setting up this deadly threat, which is going to be annoying to face. I do have to be careful not to fall for any queen e1 checks, which can be problematic. And g6, as it would be a fork down. Bishop c8. If takes there, that's obvious. Das ist ein obvious. Knight g6 here. Check here. Can't take because there. Let's go queen g6. Just covering all those squares. There, takes. Okay. Check. Knight e5, we're going to get rid of that bishop, which is sort of annoying. There, it's time to walk the king up before anything ugly happens. There, a4. There, king g3, we're coming closer and closer. There, I think that's a big mistake because now I'm pinning And bishop e8 is very bad. Black might just be in Sutzwang now. Takes. There. Rook c8. Ah, I see what you want. Don't believe you, but okay. There. Let's go rook f6. We want to take the pawn. I wouldn't want to exchange too many pieces, honestly. Why not? Because all those guys that Black has is not too great. They're quite passive. 6. F4. A6. Let's start rolling with the pawn. Rook e7, rook e6. And it's an easy win there. Oh. Okay. That's Berserkovich. Knights. You guys love knights. Good. So we're going to do a bit of a hyper-modern way. Maybe it's a bit aggressive. But I am playing aka Tony Miles style a little bit. B4. Trying to restrict. And I did make a lot of moves. But on the other hand, I have pressure in the middle. Knight f6. Note that there's no development over there, which is critical. Bishop d2, kind of not the idea, not what white should be looking for. Knight e5. Okay, I see. But this sort of runs into d6, c5. And this is the whole plan of very modern chess, restricting. Queen a4 hitting my bishop. Okay. Bishop e4. I mean, this knight is so bad and this bishop is so in the way. I didn't feel like even complicating matters because this is a bit more better than anything else. A piggy bang. There, c5. And now that knight is sad knight. Okay. Go queen b6. Takes. And it's all about restriction. And that's actually modern chess. Your opponent, if you can restrict your opponent's pieces, you're a happy camper. And notice that there'll be weak pawns on b3 and c4 in the long run. Knight e5. Knight e5. I think I can just take the piece. Can't I? Takes. No checks. Because knight e8. And rook d2 is an extra piece. And extra pieces will take. As we all know, we take them. One by one. Let's take. Knight g4. Trying to be tricky. I could capture still. It's not a problem. If I take with the bishop, it's mate. But I have gf and bishop f8. And the king is well defended. Not the prettiest structure ever. But what do you know? This is still good. Knight c6 taken away that square and also drawing in some more guys. Okay. Let's go rook b2. There. Queen a7. And the point is, this is checkmate. You can take on c6, but then it's mate in 2. Hey, Rutwik. How is it going? All right. There. Yep, we're gonna check first. Queen here, and the attack is deadly. So white is not in time for counterplay, and there's also no defense against my heavy load of pieces. Check here, check there, so that's not ideal. Takes there, check. Actually, that's fine. Queen f1, rook h2, and rook h3 is mate. Check here, mate. And that's why you need to make sure you have every pieces developed. Now my play was very risky. That was a risky play. But once it was established, there's no movement for that piece, that was the moment it was clear that I'll have a great position. Hey Magic Canadian, how are ya? So when we talk about hypermodern chess, what springs to your mind first? All right, let's Berserkovich. Okay, let's go g3 this time. There, knight f3, castles. There, and let's do the good old traditional way of playing. Knight e4. Knight e4 is a little bit different from what you're used to. There, knight takes e4. And I'm playing sort of this reversed type of position. I'm gonna go knight f6. I am more than happy to get the bishop there. Lots of times the issue is that you are stuck with, okay, let's go f3, so I have king g2 and the future. Yep, a4. I might want to soften my opponent's structure. So when you have an opposing bishop, there's a danger that I might have to exchange off my guy, and I really don't want to do that. Okay, let's develop quietly, silently. There, rook e1. Always bring your guys to open files. I mean, it's not an open file, it's a semi-open file, but it does serve the purpose, and I'm fine with that. That's a good deal. So I'm going to do it. So I'm going to go a5, soften the structure. This is, again, totally hyper-modern play. You are not aiming to get these 4 squares. You're trying to undermine your opponent's play. You think about Antoni Gaudi, Hatfield? That's awesome. b5. Okay. a6. Fixing weaknesses. Notice that most of the time I fix weaknesses, and after that situations do improve rapidly. There. Or they don't. In this case, maybe it won't. Okay, let's go bishop a5. Just pinpointing there are some problems still. DC. No knight c4 because it's a pin. And probably I'm going to close off this bishop because it's getting quite irritating. Queen takes c4. Va vu. Alright, c3. And this is actually a typical way of closing in a bishop like that. h6. Okay. Can I go that way? Oh, I can close it. So playing hypermodern ideas this stream. Bishop b7. I am actually cutting off the support. And that's kind of the key of the whole thing. And that you are trying to take off and take away all the possibilities for your opponents. I can take an a7. I'll take an a7. And that pawn is unstoppable. And that's why a4, a5, a6 is so venomous combined with a fianchetto bishop. Is that checkmate? It'll be remembered. It'll be remembered. I can pinpoint it. I will show you after the tourney. There, a7. So we want to invade. So I'm going to promote instead of taking, because now my rook gets in. There, now this king is relatively safe. So I'm going to check first, probe, go queen d1, get the file, prepare queen f3, and go towards these fresh weaknesses. b4, and that sort of runs into queen f3, hitting both the rook and the bishop. And double attacks, as you might know, or you might not, in chess, it's critical. Double attacks decide the game. And I won. Shocking, shocking. All right. Let's do the bird. Again, I'm not taking control of the middle squares. As per hypermodern chess, I am using my pieces to control them. Bishop b2. Knight c6 is not that good here because there's no target. Knight c6 only makes sense if there's a target on d4 or something to support with e5. But there's not much to support here. Yeah, that a-pawn was an MVP. And again, and that's kind of the whole point of Spanishes too. You want to pin whenever you can. Like that one in the Spanish is a pseudo pin. It's not really a pin, but it acts like one. So I'm going to take. Again, what matters in these type of positions is the quality of pieces. If my quality of these pieces drop, so they don't control these key squares, white will be in danger. But as long as I'm in control of these squares, I am doing well. Knight e4, setting up some queen h4 checks, and that's why you always want to castle. So just make sure, no funky business, we are having fun. No funky business. Okay, let's drop back. So I could consider taking, but I feel my bishops are pretty good. There's no reason for me to give it up just yet. So I'm waiting for a better time for me to come. Only thing that's an issue is this knight and rook, that they're kind of stuck. But if I can get them into the game, this will be glorious. a6, forcing an exchange that I'm already not unhappy to make. I'm just gonna do that. Takes. Yup. Yup. Queen f3. That's defended. No need to panic. And I'm gonna go and play for dark squares. Pretty similar to the Grand Prix attacks that you see. Black will have to deal with these issues. I'm gonna go d3, knight d2 in the future. And this bishop is just miles and miles better than its counterpart on f5. Anytime this moves, I just play d3 and this bishop is just hitting the wall. Queen h4, d3. Oh, it can't go d3. That's nasty. That is nasty. Wow. I underestimated that move. Okay, g3. Probably I wasted way too much time with lurking around with king h1. That was sort of not ideal. Queen h6. I have g4, cutting off these ideas of bishop h3s. And now I will be in time to kick it out with d3. So whenever you're in attacking mode, you've got to go for it and be very aggressive. Queen h6 was a little bit too tepid as far as I can see. Knight f2. Okay, so if takes, then bishop e4, but I have queen f2. Bishop e4, I just move to king g1. Bishop g4. Let's get this rook to the open file, always and ever. And after rook g7, this bishop will do its business. Takes. There, knight c3. Finally, my rook joins the battle, and the knight takes away any bishop e4 ideas. Okay, let's check. Every exchange works for me. So let's go take queen h4. And the queen will be in time to do damage. Also sort of getting closer to these weak pawns on c5 and c7. There, but that will cost a rook. I'm gonna collect that. And that is probably it for this game. So as you've seen, even if I play a little bit too cautiously, it can backfire, like really badly. Like, what I think is, you've got to be in due tempo and with tempo of what's going on. There. Oh, isn't it Joe? Is it Joe? Is it Joe Brun? In any case, shout out to Joe Brun. Okay, knight f6. So we're kind of mixing the Alekhine and the Nimzo. It's actually an interesting little hybrid. I've seen the first Maverick play this. And that first Maverick was none other than Bent Larsen. E5. Okay, knight d5. I'm gonna go with d6, undermining this guy on e5. And now you can see the point of having a knight over there. This knight is actually putting pressure. There, bishop g4, pinning, and indirectly pressing on d4. And now DE is an idea too. So I could take, don't know if that's to decide. All right, let's just go E6. Still pressing. I didn't want to take because of D5, that would have been annoying. There, DE. Indeed, E6 is the main line. There, okay. So I can take on F3 and I have knight C4. Knight C4, correct? Yep, let's take the pawn. Let's take the pawn. Taking the pawn. And once I consolidate, it'll be nice. And notice that knights in these type of positions are not bad at all. Why? Because I have a closed position. All pawns on the board. Not something that you should really consider good when bishops are abound. But when it's still closed, bishops aren't as good as knights. In the long run, the bishops get better, but not in this specific case. Now, even though I won a pawn, it's a close position. There are a couple of things that I have to do, and that is put this king into safety. If I can't, that'll be the problem. But I think I should be able to do it in due time. Queen D3. Knight B2 runs into danger, so that's not a good idea. No, D5 is the thematic move. You kill the scope of this bishop, you note you're up an extra pawn, and with this structure, you get to shuffle around a bit longer. Let's take. Every exchange is good for me, so I'm just gonna eliminate that bishop. Also, that sort of loses a defender of that D4 pawn, which can be and will be important. Okay, bishop E7. Let's castle. There, let's castle. And the knight is a little bit funky over there, but it really doesn't matter because it's hiding a valuable one on C7. Knight B5. Okay. I'll go rook C8, preparing this A6 and C5. And talking about hypermodern, Breyer is, well, I think you could consider Breyer knight b8, c5 could be coming, because the knight is not supposed to be in front of the pawn. It should be behind it. Hey Lolly, how's it going? So there is something that I do want to tell you guys. So the French structure does give you chances to maneuver. The only issue that you usually face is that your bishop is terrible. So that's kind of the big deal and problem over in that cases. Hey Casper, how's it going? I don't have the bishop now, so this is like an improved French. Actually, it's even better than that because I'm up a pawn. Queen d2. Okay. Let's develop. I could have gone that way, but then I decided that, hey, first things first, connect them rooks. They deserve love. Yeah, I don't see any bad bishops, and that actually makes me feel really, really happy. Knight c3. Let's go undermine it. Because after exchanges, that d4 pawn will be juicy. f6 is always very risky, but in the French, it's a very thematic move to make. Because the d4 square is bay. And another side note right there, that f6 is actually a critical move. 99.999% of the time, it's terrible, and you don't want to play it. But in the French, sort of in a hypermodernish way, you can even consider that a little bit hypermodern. It is surprisingly useful, and actually is not a bad choice. Again, if you're a newcomer, whenever I say hypermodern, it means I'm trying to attack with pieces and not pawns. So pieces are trying to lurk around the center and just take the center afterwards. So mostly it's piece play versus center, just like in the Grunfeld. No, the French is a legit opening. It's not considered lazy as the London. Alright, let's go rook d8 over defend the d5 pawn. Probably I'm gonna go king h8 so I won't be kind of sniped on white squares. That wouldn't be great. Look, French is structurally is correct. The only problem with the bishop is bad. There, rook e1. Okay, let's go king h8. I'm sort of preparing for the big battle, getting everything ready. And also note that white doesn't really have that much maneuvering going on because of that knight being stuck on e2. I mean, there's a good reason why people play the Caro-Kann, because it's the right version of the French. e5, and again, notice, not enough threats on d5 anymore. This is a big threat. And as soon as everything opens up in the mid, there'll be trouble. Trouble, that is, for white. Okay. Gotta go e4. I could take, but I want to blast through. By the way, we do opening lectures, so if you're interested in the Rapport Jabava, do check that out. And there's lots of pressure there, and suddenly the queen is a bit away. because there's a cutoff on this side of the board. All right. Bishop d4 check. There. Queen g6 hitting there, kind of freeing up this bishop to do any sort of dances. Well, I do not want to do politics here, so I would rather avoid that topic. There. Okay, and now it runs into bishop f2, and I can take. There. Okay, I'll take here. There it takes. There, queen f6, queen f1 is a big threat, connecting my guys. This will be very much problematic. There, let's bring the knight in. Slalom, slalom. Very much important. There, queen f1 check. Let's take that bishop. And it is over. Nice. Yep, that looks pretty much better. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Definitely. All right. We can do hypermodern with the e4, surprisingly. Can still go this direction, f4. So I am giving up the center. However, I will gain some side space. I'm going for active play on the other side of the board. Queen h4. Knight d4. I'm going to avoid exchanging there. Rook f3. Note that there's no knight on f6, so rook h3 is actually somewhat of a real threat. Not to talk about f5, which is a typical idea. Knight c6, trying to exchange ladies, but no. My answer is an unequivocal no. I don't want to. Now queen e1 is a little bit lazy, but queen f2 would run into bishop d4, so I had to be careful there. Okay. c3, just building a barrier on this side of the board. Probably I should bring my knight over to have an attack. Could even go knight a3, c2, knight e3. Oh, yeah. Fox, thank you for dropping a subscription. Emerts, thank you for the follow. Wow, Streamlabs is aggressive today. So let's go knight a3. So I'm going this way in f5, or I could even go this direction. f5 was a nice move, although a little bit committal, you ask me. Okay, let's go rook h3, setting up some future threats. And then I hope to get my knight in the game via the window. Hello, hello. You watched it. Cool. Alright, I guess I need to get my guys out. Still, I have bountiful of pieces everywhere. So still need to get them out. Just too many of them. Yep. I'm gonna go F5. There. I feel that I have something here, but I can't quite pinpoint what it is. Okay, let's just develop. I will get my guys over to D6. That is the plan. F4, that's a very nice move, unfortunately. Okay, I'm going to go for this pawn. That'll be the big plan. Yeah, I had some nice little tricks on the king because his bishop is shockingly tricky. Mod is strong. Yep. Thanks so much, Lolly. And also Casper. Casper, who's been in a quiet mode. He is the quiet power behind this stream. You don't see him. You don't hear him. He knows all. Feel the mod powers flow. Yep, exactly. Alright. So I guess it's time to develop my guys. Because I hadn't. And this rook is still sad on a1. That's not good. Okay, let's give a check finally. Bishop f8. Huh. Well. Go king h1. Rook g6. Not shocked at all. Not at all shocked. G3, and I want to open it up because black has the same problems that I had. Not too many pieces on the king side. So in this box, there's very few guys. So I'm going to exchange this rook. And suddenly I will be, I think, a half a tempo, half or 2 tempis ahead. It's been a good week. Glad to hear that, Casper. How's it going? It's going good. How about yourself, Dusseldan? And even though I'm down a pawn, this pawn on d6 is backwards. I control some important squares, and his bishop's monstrous. And on the other side, those guys are passive. So that gives me good compensation. Queen f6. There. Queen f6. Let's bring in the rook. We need it. Queen g6. Okay. Can't invade. Also low on time, which ain't good. Queen f3, I'm not a fan in a second thought. Not a fan of this move. Should have brought this knight in the game. Bishop f7. There. h5. I really have to be active. If I lose my activity, the position can collapse. And again, that's why you get your guys in. I'm sort of suffering because of not doing so. Queen takes g3. Not shocked. Not at all shocked to see that. Bishop h6. And we're kind of lurking. Taking away all those important squares from the rook. Check takes there. f3. There. Should I go knight b5 or knight c4? It has to be knight c4. Threats on d6. King is bad. So that actually gives me tons of play. Also, this knight is just not ideal. If I could just maneuver it to better place, like d5, that would make my day. That would make my day. If takes, I have knight d5, and I'm winning a piece. It's actually tricky. Sometimes I have these ideas as well. Yeah, my opponent is in a deep, deep think tank, thinking tank. Um, Question is how I should follow up. Probably keeping the pressure is what I should be doing. If I can do that, this will be very good for me. So I'm trying to exchange. I don't mind exchanging because that rook is stuck and this knight doesn't have a square. Okay, check. There. What? Knight f5. There, knight d6. That is a deadly idea. This knight is paralyzed. Knight e8. Check. Takes. There, d6. g4. c7. f4. e4. h4. Let's take that. No! Oh, oh my god. Oh my god, that was a heartache. That was a heartache. That was a heartache. That mouse slip almost killed me. Oh goodness. Oh my goodness. Ah. That was scary. Scary as heck. Woo. Woo. That was scary. Yeah, that was actually like cute. Knight e8 was nice. And the bishop can't move anywhere. But actually my favorite mate is this one. So let's analyze this. Bishop g, well, not here. Here, bishop, what, that doesn't work? It takes. I mean, this was such a beautiful mate. I had to show that one with all those bishops in there. MTB Chris, thank you for extending the tier 1 subscription. Welcome back. It was very close. Grabinski says hi. Aaron. Hey, Aaron. Right. Let's go back. Whoa, that was not much time there. That think tank was more of an ocean. Yes, exactly. Absolutely loving all my videos and loving the chess sweep streams. Thank you. We appreciate it. Yeah, that was scary. All right. Okay, so let's do g6. Again, firing. Oh wait, c5, f3. Not a fan, especially because I was already hitting there. And this is again a typical idea. Now, you can see this in the Grob. Same idea. It is like a pseudo double attack. Because bishop e3 never works, you have to tend for that pawn. Let's go d6, but let's go with knight c6 first. No d5 because knight e5. Pawn is a pawn but not a grabber. Exactly. There. Okay, d6. And notice that white's pieces are still not developed at all. So I'm going to try to use that. Also bringing more ammunition against that pawn. There. Let's go bishop g4. Pinning it. d5. Okay. Knight b4, might maneuver to c5 later. And again, notice that I'm making sure that this bishop won't move and can't move. All right, now go back. Maybe I could have gone king f1. I mean king f8. There. Here comes the traditional bishop f5 with these threats of knight c2, knight d3. And that is deadly. Deadly. Knight c2. And that's checkmate. Because there's nowhere you can go. And that's why, people, you've got to get your pieces out. Otherwise, you get mated. You get mated terribly. That's what happens. That is what happens. Thank you for the follow, Ayush. Let's see, maybe there'll be one more round. Satisfying watching f3 and c3 punished? Yeah, but you have to be resolute. You've got to be resolute over there. Okay, that's Berserkovich. Knight f3. b3. Again, we are attacking these squares with pieces. g3. Bishop g2. There, and this time I'm going to support that with my pawn. Okay, let's castle. There. And I will build this Marozzi type of position, taking control of the d5 square. And the reason I am kind of happy to take is because that this bishop enjoys that extra space that it can get. Knight c3. Edgar saying, thank you for the cheers. Hit that #1 spot. I believe you can do it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Gonna go a4. Just making sure no b5 break ever happens. I'd consider going a5 myself. Now, another little tidbit. Once you have a g2 bishop, you might not want to close it up. Okay, my opponent really wants to grab that pawn. Don't know if that is such a big deal or the end of the world. I'm gonna go knight f3 in any case. In that case, I'll take you. Now, that was double defended. Pretty sure about that. Hey, Lampel. Knight g5. Let's try to exchange more. Once you get that extra piece, you want to exchange. Want to exchange. There, knight e4. Attacking the d6 pawn and also giving this and winking at the opponent. Hey, want to exchange? Want to exchange? Knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. There, let's go rook d1, get over here, takes, getting those guys on the files, offering an exchange, right? CB, AB, A5, and this is actually typical. You take and you create a passer. And one of those things that higher ranked players do is they try to create chances whenever possible. So I could exchange everything if I wanted to, but really getting that extra guy over there means a whole lot. Okay, e4, using the fact that this queen is in danger. Hope that's a lady. And then a second lady is incoming, or at least plan to show up on the board. Why not bishop d5? Because, I don't know, it could have been bishop d5 as well. There were just too many ways to win in that position. Knight f3. Again, not getting the center, but controlling the center. Bishop b2, e3. There, knight e5. Bishop d3. This is a little bit different way of playing. A little bit riskier too. But then now you'll have both of those guys on that side. a6, trying to play b5. So I'm just making sure that doesn't happen. a5, so no b6. If takes, I might even consider taking with fe because it would open up the f5 for my rook. Bishop d6. Oh, if I take, I do help my opponent to castle. That I don't want. So I'm going to go knight g4, pressing on f6. And if there's any exchange, potentially, this can become an extreme big target on g7. Lampel says, my brother always plays the London as white. It's so annoying. Tell him a grandmaster tells him to stop. Stop it. Play something good. Chess is supposed to be fun for both of us. So the reason I didn't take, because there is a chance for black to go long castles. e5. Interesting. But I think I'm still going to be ignoring it. I'm castling, putting pressure, and one thing left for black is that king being stuck in the mid. I'm waiting what black is trying to do. Bishop e7. Okay, it's time to blast it open. And in this sense, this is hypermodern, such as the Grunfeld. You are trying your best to create targets in your opponent's position. And now my bishop makes a glorious return. Look at all those bishops lurking hard. Bishop f6, but I think it is too little, too late. Good take. Yeah, let's take. Oh, but now queen g7, and it's a classic double attack. This is actually hyper-modern chess in a nutshell. By the way, we do have one hyper-modern stream up if you're interested on our YouTube channel, so definitely check that one out. And these are the double attacks, hard to deal with. Now, double attacks are always on 50-50 territory. Sometimes you can get away from double attacks with checks, captures, and blocks. Actually, blocks not really, but checks definitely. But triple attacks, now triple attacks is impossible to deal with. Really, they're terrible to deal with. There, probably go this direction. Again, once you win something, you still have to develop these guys in time. Bishop h3. Alright, I can't take, I'm pinned. I can go rook f2, over defend these guys, and I'm kind of happy with that. I'm honestly not familiar with any of those, Edgar Saint. To be honest with you, let's take, let's develop. And knight d5 is coming, knight e4 is around. So there are plenty of issues right there. Okay, let's take on e4. I will be able to go knight g3, just covering it up. Yep, let's cover it up. h5. Okay. gh. There. Let's take. And it is way too many pieces. h2. And king g2. And suddenly, the rook is in box. Can't run away. And it's over. Yay! We won. We won. All right. There's one more thing that I promised to show, apart from winning, and that is the Spanish. So I actually had a game that I wanted to show. I played some time ago. Are going to take a look at that one. Study my studies. Get that study ready. My Spanish. Get the, well, that's not the link. Thank you for the follows, guys. Editor, no. Here. Okay. Did it load? Yes, it have. Okay. So, in the Spanish, you do have to put pressure. It's actually the same thing like hyper-modern chess. You are trying to undermine the e5 pawn. Hey, Gusman. So bishop b5, the whole point of bishop b5 is is to undermine the e5 pawn. Now it doesn't quite work. It is actually a pseudo pin, as I talked before earlier. Now a6, as happened, you can't really take because there's this queen d4 counter trick, and you're going to lose the pawn. However, white is banking on the fact that after this e pawn will be defended, the e5 pawn will become weak. So bishop a4. There, knight f6, castle, b5, bishop c5. So here comes the big question. What will be our main targets in these type of positions? We've got to answer that, and then we'll continue on with this game. What will be our primary targets? We already know one, although I think it is kind of self-explanatory. So where will be the targets in black's position? e5, of course, exactly, Sugarici, and b5. e5 and b5, those are the two targets. Now b5 was played to stop this pawn from falling. c3, a4. And a4 is a very good move. It's very standard, but you have to know these ideas. So the point white is trying to attack the two weaknesses. Now, not that white is winning, but you're trying to target b5 and e5. e5 and b5. Rook b8, d4, knight a3. So I am going for the b5 pawn. However, this is a variation. My knight is not happy on a3. Normally, you want your knight to go knight d2. So in fact, you could play this line this way. Bishop e3, castles, knight d2. These guys are defended. Rook e8, h3, h6, rook e1. And the line goes on and on. This is a complicated position with chances for both sides. But again, you could go with this traditional plan of bishop c2, knight f1, knight g3. Why is it okay to leave that pawn hanging? The reason is the following. If knight e4, as we talked about it, there is this very nice little move, bishop d5, double attacking. And as I told you before, double attacking often wins you the game. Just like in this case. So here, knight a3. Again, let me just talk about this for a second. h6, h3. Later on, you could go this way. Just gonna make some moves. Wait. And you will go knight f1, knight g3. And then you try to expand on the queen side. That is actually the technical way of playing. But okay, back to the game. Knight a3, takes, bishop g4, bishop c2. Now, whenever you play the Spanish, one thing is for certain, you have to have control of the mid. If you don't have control of the mid, you're in trouble. rook e8, d5, h3, bishop g5. You always ask the question for for black, where this bishop is going. That bishop is actually not doing great over there. Bishop g5, and actually in close positions, g4 is not a bad move. Is that checkmate? The only thing you have to double check whether this sacrifice works. I wasn't sure and I was a little bit worried that the knight is coming, but normally if there's no knight there, you can just go king g2 and you have only one move away from playing queen d3, just putting your king into safety. So I wasn't sure, that's why I played bishop g5, pinning, and then going for g4. And I'll tell you why, because if the bishop is stuck on g6, after rook e1, white is almost always better. Because again, you will be able to maneuver around in this side of the board or go after defending the g4 pawn with h4, h5, trying to trap the bishop. So in general, h3, g4 is a good plan for white, but you have to make sure it doesn't work tactically for black. So I wasn't sure, I played bishop g5, and now I played g4, as I was 100% sure that it's working. Bishop g6, knight a3, my knight was doing nothing, so I'm going to go for this plan. Recall that in this position, I can go knight a3, c4, but the traditional plan is knight d2, f1, and g3, with the same goal, reaching f5. So that's kind of what you're aiming for in these type of positions. f6, bishop h4, just keeping my pieces. Note that my b pawn is loose, so this is never working because there's rook b2, and that's kind of nasty. So just go bishop h4 here. c6, dc. It's no knight c6 because queen d5 check. It's actually a blunder. d5 takes, knight takes, rook takes c5, which is kind of cute. There's this pin going on, so there's no fe, takes, there, takes, knight c4, knight d4, and black resigned. So this was just a short game that I wanted to show you as of an end. You've got to attack both the b5 pawn, play in the center. I mean, normally you will shift to knight d2, knight f1, knight g3, as I said in the beginning of this game. That's the way you should go. Now, I could tell that this is the absolute way of playing the Spanish. So again, thank you for watching this stream. I hope I did answer your questions. Janos, thank you for following. And now we are going to raid. I really hope that was fun for you. It was fun for me. It was good to look and play a bit of a modern. With that, I wish you guys all the best and take care. Bye-bye.